Welcome, everyone. We are looking forward to sharing some information that I know you're anxious to hear. First thing I want to do is let you be aware of the many resources that we have available for you. In a previous video that we sent out, I mentioned that we were going to make available every possible resource for you as parents to partner with us to successfully execute our distance learning program. And we realized that there's a lot of stress and burden on you. And so I'd like to share Shannon, are you going to control the screen, or Adam, the screen
Yes.
with resources? Okay, there we go. That's what I was looking for there. All right. So first of all, please continue to check our website for latest updates. Our marketing communication team has been working overtime late into the night to build a web page where we can put all the resources in one place that you may need during this this period. So as you can see on the screen, the website is there. I'm really proud of the work they've done. They have, if you haven't been to the website in the last 24 hours, please do so, because there's been some significant changes to it. We've expanded your options. We have, I think, many things that that you'll find interesting, and it's in a much more user-friendly format. So kudos to our marketing communication team for putting that together. So parents, please check that website often. Also, a reminder, if you have a technology issue, we're here to support that. Our technology team is, two of them were on the webinar today, but they are ready to support you in any way. So please email your question or concern or issue to support@legacyca.com. That will open up a technology ticket, and they will be prepared to help you in whatever area that you need help in. Also, parents, please check to make sure your RenWeb, your current email address is correct on RenWeb. We're still getting some bounce back emails, so a few of you have not yet updated your contact information. We would ask that you do that if you want to ensure that you get the latest information via RenWeb. Next, I want to encourage you folks. I know we don't know yet the financial impact that this pandemic's going to have on all of our families, but please be assured Legacy stands ready to help your family in any way we can. And we have decided to do this on a case-by-case basis. So because we're such a diverse community, there's no way we can have one policy that covers everyone. So here's what I would say to you, parents. If this pandemic is going to create a financial burden on your family in any way, please contact Sherry Mosley at the email on your screen and discuss your situation with her, and we will do everything in our power to meet your need. In a few minutes, you're going to hear more about the tuition assistance that we're offering. The board has made a very important decision that I'm going to let them announce today. But if you're impacted in any way, parents, I cannot urge you strongly enough to contact us. Let us know. Our goal is that no one would leave the school for financial reasons. That's always our goal, but it's even more so now. We realize more families may be impacted by the pandemic. Families who would never consider financial aid in the past may be forced to. And so please give us a chance. Don't just assume you have to withdraw your children because you've been laid off, or you've lost your job, or you're just unsure about your financial situation. We're here to help you with that. So I can't stress that enough. Next, I want to urge everyone that if your child or someone in your immediate family test positive for COVID-19, you can confidentially report that to our nurse, Angie Detloff, at that email address. That's so important because we need to be aware of that so that we can take the proper precautions we need to take as a school community. We will rely on the recommendations of our local public health authorities on what to do when a member of our community tests positive. But to our knowledge, no one currently has tested positive. Now that may change over the next few weeks, but if indeed this describes your situation, parents, please contact Angie Detloff, our nurse, so that she can make sure that we follow the proper protocols. The next thing I want to emphasize is that our counselors are available anytime you need help. I know that over the next few days and weeks, for however long we're in a distance learning mode, your children may experience a number of emotions. They may be currently fearful. They may be anxious. That's why we have our counseling service available. I know that Mrs. Sneer is ready to help any child pre-K through 8, and Mrs. Snyder, any child in grades 9 through 12. So parents, take advantage of that service. They stand ready and willing to help you in any way. And finally, if there's a question that you still have that we haven't yet answered, please submit those to questions@legacyca.com. That's the most efficient way we have to answer your question. And we're monitoring that regularly. So we have an individual on our staff who that's her primary job, is to read those questions and make sure they're sent to the person who can best answer that question. So those are our resources. If you'll go next, there you go. Parents, I would invite you to join me in setting up an alarm on your phone at 1:09 p.m. every day. The 1:09 signifies Joshua 1 through 9, which is a verse we have adopted to reflect our Stronger Together tagline. Joshua 1 through 9 says, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. That's a great reminder. And I know the faculty and staff at 109 are pausing. Wherever we are pausing to pray together at this time. I think it will be a meaningful time if you'll join us in prayer. And finally, I'd like to mention the Community Shepherd Program. So we have already assigned a number of our staff to be community shepherds who will be calling our families on a regular basis to touch base to make sure that you're doing okay. We want to hear from you if you have needs, or if you just need a friendly voice. The community shepherds are there for you. So if you get a call from LCA, it very well could be one of our community shepherds. So pick up the phone and talk with them. That's their job over the next few weeks, is to shepherd you and to encourage you. And finally, get connected on our social media, Facebook, Instagram, all of that. I've had to do that. You know, I've tried to avoid social media like the plague, but I've also learned that the plague is now forcing me onto social media. So I'm coming of age here, even at age 62. So I'm going to be quiet because I want to introduce now Brad Brenneman, our chairman of the board. and Brett Bingham, chairman of our finance committee. They have some important words to share with you and some important information you need to know. So Brad and Brett.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate this time with everybody today. First of all, just a giant thank you to Mr. McGee and the entire leadership team, to all of our faculty and staff for their tireless work over the last couple of weeks to do a 180 from totally in-person education to completely online education. The efforts, the hours have been heroic, and I believe I speak not only for our board, but our parents in a major thank you. Secondly, thank you, parents, for your patience and endurance as we all jointly work through this situation. Most importantly, thank you, God, for being faithful to us. You always are, and God is the real source of our strength and peace, and indeed, this is His school. As Mr. McGee said, our board just met this afternoon, and really we have one main goal. We would like to help everybody and join everybody in living out the love of Jesus to help all our current families remain and thrive at Legacy Christian. As Mr. McGee said, we want to leave. We do not want any family to leave for financial reasons. And so, and this love really stems, if you ever want, go read Acts chapter 4 at the end, where the earliest community of Christians gather together and share everything. And that's the spirit and the heart we want to exemplify in Legacy. We know many families are struggling, experiencing a lot of challenge, a lot of uncertainty, and we are praying with you and for you for these challenges. But as Mr. McGee said earlier, we also want to support our Legacy families in very tangible ways. And I'm very grateful Brett is going to share a little bit more about how we would like to do that. Brett?
Thank you, Brad. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening and just share a little bit about from a financial perspective for Legacy. I think it's important that I begin by saying that Legacy is in a very strong financial position as we go into this. But we will be very focused on managing our cash flow as we go through this pandemic and the subsequent events that will follow. But by God's grace, our strong position and our financial discipline will allow LCA to weather this storm. Bill and his leadership team have already taken action to respond to this new economic reality. They've suspended all construction. They've placing a freeze on new hires and spending except for crucial operational and maintenance needs. And as mentioned earlier, today we met as a board and unanimously approved to reallocate all the remaining annual fund dollars and future pledges and gifts to now be used to provide tuition assistance for our LCA families and benevolence for our faculty struggling with any financial hardship. We know several families have already been hit hard by this, and we anticipate many more will be impacted financially in the future. I know this has been said multiple times, but I want to reiterate, our desire is not to lose one family due to financial hardship. Please, if you find yourself here now or at some point in the future, please let us know how we can help. You can do so by emailing Sherry Mosley to begin the process, and Mrs. Mosley's email address is on the previous slide. We want to help, and we will be as creative and as flexible as we can with everyone who has a need. With that, Brad, I think I'll flip it back to you.
Thank you, Brett. So what do we ask of you? First of all, we would ask of everybody, let's step up in genuine faith. And the faith we're asking for is trust that we, LCA as a community, really, really want to help each other. Trust that, try it out, challenge us, reach out to Sherry, reach out to others. I'm confident our community will stand up strong, and we will be much stronger after we have gone through this experience together than we were before. Secondly, and related, engage LCA for help. we're going to keep repeating this theme because we don't want anyone to not get it. Remember, we do not want any families to leave. Engage us, challenge us, reach out. Third, we would challenge anybody that has not fulfilled your annual fund commitment, if you have the capability to, please do so now. As Brett just mentioned, all of the annual fund dollars that are coming in now, 100% of it is going to go to help current families and faculty through these financial hardships. And so please, if you're capable of it, step up and finish that off. And then I'd say finally, take a leap. If you can go beyond that, or if you haven't made an annual fund pledge, and if you're in a position to do so, there's never been a better time to make a big impact on so many people's lives than right now. And I know Mr. McGee and Shannon Nelson and others would love to speak with you about that if you have any more questions. And with that, it's my pleasure to now pass it on to our high school principal, Mr. Kevin Mosley. We are so grateful for his leadership at the high school. I know how much he loves the Lord and loves our kids. So Kevin, it's your turn now.
Thank you, Brad. And I do want to express my thanks on behalf of all of our legacy community for you, your leadership, and the sacrifices the board members have made and continue to lead us as a body of believers in this difficult time. Well, we have had a successful launch to our distance learning program here in the upper school, and that's really due to amazing, committed teachers and staff. Special shout out to 2 staff members of mine who've done a tremendous job in equipping our teachers, and that's Megan Hanna and Jeff Veal. They've just done yeoman's work in that regard. It's very important for us, for you to give us feedback. We had over 400 people respond to our survey and just how we've done. I know it was short, but we wanted to see if we could make some quick adjustments, and we will be making a couple quick adjustments I'll share with you in just a moment. I'd like to share with you a quote from one of our parents in the survey. One of our parents wrote, "My daughter is quite social, so I thought distance learning would be hard for her, but she has really enjoyed it thus far. For one of their classes, a bunch of kids brought their pets to class and had their pets sitting by them, which they all thought was super fun. We appreciate the teachers' creativity and the varied approaches each teacher took. The variety has been a nice change of pace. Distance learning has exceeded expectations." And I thank you for that. I thank you for our patience as we continue to grow in this really new paradigm. We don't know how long it's going to last, but our teachers are committed to continuing the legacy excellence and the relationships that are so important to who we are at Legacy. So a couple things I'd like to address. Some of the feedback we've gotten was you would like to see us kind of consolidate some of the communication patterns. You know, we got RenWeb and email and Schoology, and we've been using Schoology for quite some time, and we're going to work even harder. I met with my teachers today to really kind of streamline that communication for our students. Just go to Schoology, check RenWeb, move into Schoology, and really try to cut back on the emails a little bit and do that communication there. And they all agreed that would be something they would be able to do. We are going to make a couple of small tweaks to the schedule. We'll be sharing that with you really maybe by the end of the day today, because some of the feedback we got was that kids need a little bit more time for lunch because they're having to make their own lunch now rather than be served and eat. And maybe shorten the class time just a little bit. So we're going to take 5 minutes off of each class to a 70-minute class period, extend lunch by 15 minutes, and then I think it will even allow us to get out maybe 5 or 10 minutes earlier. So look for that amended schedule soon. One of the challenges that we wanted to accomplish in the schedule was to provide a balance between synchronous learning and asynchronous learning. Synchronous learning meaning that people are synchronizing the time and they're all on at the same time. That allows face-to-face interaction, which is, we know from studies, is extremely important. And you should just see our students, they light up, and our teachers light up when they see each other's faces. It's so important. And even though we've had some challenges with bandwidth and things like that, which are continuing to improve, and we're adjusting some platform things, but I think it's been very important that we have some asynchronous learning there. And of course, some people would rather just work independently. Some people would rather have a lot more face time. And we find that we're kind of in that sweet spot right now with the schedule we have. So, and I know it may be a struggle for some at times, but it's important that we have face-to-face time, and our schedule accomplishes that. We want to continue with those personal connections. It's very important. Another thing we're getting questions on is, are we going to be able to do some of these time-honored things that we've done, like prom or our award ceremony or graduation or Camp Eagle? All of these things are things we are committed to preserving in some way. It may not be the exact same format. It may be we have to do some things virtually, but particularly with something as big as graduation and prom, if we have to even push that into the summer, we're looking at some way to try to preserve those time-honored traditions in their original format as much as we can. As you know, this is out of our control as a whole, but we are committed, even if we have to change the format in some way, to provide some of those time-honored traditions. We're going to be sending another survey out in a couple of weeks. Appreciate your input. You always can contact us directly, contact teachers directly, email us. Your feedback is important and it's crucial. And I'm now going to throw it over to, you may call him Mr. Dibley, but I refer to him as the man from down under, our middle school principal, Lynne Dibley.
All right, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to address what's happening in the world of middle school. I think if we had known in advance what was going to happen, we could have made a reality TV show called Extreme Makeover Distance Learning Edition. You take a group of teachers and you tell them that they have to change everything that they've been doing. They have to come up with a whole new way to teach, and at the same time learn a whole new way to implement that teaching. And you've only got 1 week to do it. If you're familiar with the movie Apollo 13, like the NASA engineers, the teachers have been asked to put a square peg in a round hole. What I can tell you is that the teachers have done an incredible job in this monumental shift to distance learning. They're being stretched and challenged. They are acquiring new skills. I cannot lie to you, there have been tears. I know that last Monday, they felt like it was their very first day of teaching ever. And now we're at the end of the first week and they've got to turn around and do it all over again. But they are professionals and they understand that they're in a position to minister to their students and to their families. And I've been very impressed by their diligence at making that happen. With the shift to distance learning, one of the challenges that we've discovered is that I can tell the teachers are struggling with establishing new routines. In this new world, their school day has the potential to be a 24-hour day. There's no start and there's no finish time. Students are submitting assignments and emailing teachers at all hours of the day. So this is something that the teachers are having to figure out on the fly. And in the midst of this, many of our teachers are parents as well, so they are juggling their own children and their schoolwork and the things that are happening in their homes. Knowing that our teachers have been thrown into the deep end, I have given them what I call a right to fail card. The right to fail card essentially says, if in an attempt to teach, you try something creative and grand and it flops horribly, you can turn in your right to fail card and you have permission to try again. Teachers don't like to feel inadequate or incompetent. They are used to being good at what they do. So it's a scary time for them in some ways right now. I would ask that you show them some understanding and have some patience with them if things aren't perfect out of the gate. Well, the most important people in all of this are our students. We still want to provide the quality education that they would receive as though they were in the classroom. And for that to happen, we have purposefully had a slow rollout this week. Google Classroom for 5th and 6th grade and Schoology for 7th and 8th grade, along with some other resources, are essentially new to all of our students. We've been deliberate in slowing it down to give every student the opportunity to get on board before we head too far down the road. And part of this challenge is for teachers to figure out how students are working. They're working at different levels, they're working at different speeds, and the teachers are learning to adjust what is an appropriate amount of content online as opposed to the content they might ordinarily teach and deliver in a classroom. Overall, the feedback that I've received is that the students are adapting well to this new format. In order to assist families, we want to make sure that you have what you need so that your child is successful. If by any chance your technology is not working for you or you need to borrow a Chromebook, we will make sure that you get what you need. If you need help in this area, please email support@legacyca.com. Thank you for your support during this time. We appreciate you and we are praying for you. And at this time, I would like to hand over to Mrs. McCullum, the lower school principal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dibley. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today, and I pray that your families are staying well. I want to first begin by thanking everyone who has sent encouraging messages to our faculty and staff during this time. Our teachers are in the midst of something that many have never faced in their careers, They're having to restructure their entire way of teaching while at the same time learning new technology platforms that are utilized for distance learning. We have asked our teachers to be available during the day to interact with their students and parents. And when that portion of their day ends, they begin meeting with their grade level teams to plan for the following week. This occurs in the late afternoons and evenings and into the weekend. You can see that their workload has greatly multiplied. Many are doing this while they are also tending to the needs of their own families. So your kind words and prayers and support mean so much to them after a long day. For those of you who know my lower school teachers, they are doing all of this with joy in their heart because they love your children. I want to share that we understand that many of you have multiple children at home, are working from home yourselves, and are trying to manage your children's learning at the same time. Please make sure that you communicate with your child's teacher about any struggles you may be facing. You have to do what works for your family, and we completely understand that. If you don't have time to build a volcano or create an artwork masterpiece, that is just fine. The two words, in my opinion, which describe what we are all going through are grace and flexibility. I've also been hearing parents say, "I'm worried that my child will fall behind." Please know that all children across the country are in the same boat. When the time comes when we are back in school, our amazing LCA teachers will tailor their instruction to meet the needs of your child. Please give your little ones a big hug from Mrs. McCollum. The teachers and I miss them dearly. I've enjoyed popping in and out of the classrooms in Seesaw just to see their sweet faces and hear their precious voices. I've seen them reading their Bibles, singing a worship song, and even jump roping while practicing their math skills. I really love how Seesaw allows teachers to give individual attention and feedback to each child. Please tell them that Mrs. McCollum says to keep soaring and that I have plenty of soar tickets to hand out when we return to campus. Don't hesitate to reach out to me or your teachers with any challenges you may be facing or any prayers that you need. We will get through this together. And now I'm going to turn things over to Adam Housley for a Q&A. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Tiffany. Well, with that, everyone, we will get started with Q&A. So there's a reminder on your screen in terms of how you get that chat box ready to go. So please do go ahead, open up your chat box and start asking any questions that you may have in mind. Adam Housley is going to screen those questions and ask our presenters for their answers. So Adam, I will turn things over to you.
All right, for our first question, Mr. McGee, can you talk about how long distance learning will last?
Well, that is the question that is on the minds of every school administrator that I know. We really don't know. We have no way of knowing what our governor is going to decide, what local government officials may decide. That's going to probably dictate our decision. It really takes the decision out of our hands as educators. Now, it may be that in the next few weeks, we're given some permission to open back up. And in that case, we will give you as much lead notice as possible. You know, I'm meeting with my leadership team daily, and we're looking at just what is going on in our community, you know, which, and keep in mind, we're a pretty diverse community. We're not, we don't have students just from one city or one zip code or even one county. They're spread out all over North Texas. So we have to take that in consideration when we make decisions about whether to continue distance learning or not. But what I would say is, as soon as we can make that call, we'll let you know to give you as much advance warning as possible. Right now, as of this moment, our plan is to continue distance learning through next week with the hope that we could be back in session by April 6th. But I will tell you, be ready for that to be extended. I know there are a couple of public schools who have already announced that they're going to extend past the Easter weekend. So it is very likely we will do the same, given the information we have at the time. Again, early next week, we'll be able to make that call. So if you'll just be patient with us, we don't want to make a call prematurely and then have to go back and change that. So, so please know that we will let you know via all of our communication channels just as quickly as possible.
Great. Kind of a follow-up question. If school is reopened, will families be required to return to campus, or will there be alternate distance learning plans in place in case we're concerned about the virus?
You know, that's a very good question. That's something we're going to be discussing this next week with my leadership team. If we do open back up this school year, and there are families who are not comfortable sending their kids back to school, or perhaps maybe they can't because they're in a quarantine situation, what is our plan? So it is possible that we may launch some kind of hybrid model. I'm hesitant to tell you exactly what that's going to look like, because at this point we don't know what that's going to look like. But you know, our hope is that we can reconvene on campus before the end of this school year. And if we do, we will certainly make provision for those students who, for whatever reason, can't convene with us. So we'll try our best in that situation. What that looks like, I can't tell you at this point, but that is one of the things we're beginning to plan. So just be patient with us there, and we'll have an answer shortly.
Brett, this next question is for you. I know you talked about it in the beginning just a little bit, but we had a lot of people join after that fact. And the question has been asked, if we have a financial hardship, how do we get help with tuition?
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, so the proper steps, the first step would be to email Sherry Mosley, CHERI.Mosley@legacyca.com. That'll get the process started. And from there, it can have a conversation and really to evaluate what are the needs. And then we can, as we mentioned earlier, we want to be as flexible and as possible so that we can custom craft whatever the needs may be for each family.
Great, thank you. And let's see this next question. Brad, can you talk about, the question was asked, let me get it up here. Does the school have any immediate needs? I thought that might be a good opportunity for you to address how our families can help if they feel inclined.
Yeah, great question. And thank you for asking. I would say two ways. One, and I think we're all hopefully getting more and more accustomed with this over the last couple of weeks, is pray. Pray for our faculty, pray for our staff, pray for our students, pray for our families. And I don't think we should ever take that for granted. God is far more powerful than anything else we're going to do. So that would be number one. And number two is if, and again, this depends on the family, but if you are in a position to financially contribute newly or more to the annual fund, which will all go to tuition assistance and benevolence for those who are experiencing financial hardship, that is a awesome way to contribute right now that is very tangible. So those would be two great ways to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Mr. McGee, we're going to toss it back to you. Get your camera up. The question is, how are the teachers and staff doing? And, you know, we talked about how parents can help, but how are the teachers and staff doing? And someone has asked about, are all the staff being paid, including cleaning people and admin, et cetera?
Yes. Well, I can answer the second question. Yes, we have not laid off or furloughed anyone, and our intent is to make sure everyone in our on our faculty and staff will continue to be paid. So that's one of the blessings, as Brett and Brad both mentioned. We're blessed in that we have resources in order to continue to pay our folks. And that's just from good stewardship. You know, I complimented our board earlier today that because of their good stewardship, we have a surplus that we can draw on if necessary. But currently, everyone is still getting their paycheck. In fact, today was payday, and so all of our folks got paid. But thank you for asking that question and being concerned about that. What was the other half of that question?
How are the teachers and staff doing in general? Question about morale.
I think they're doing terrific. They have the most positive spirit you can imagine. I got a chance even before this webinar to just sit in on the upper school faculty meeting that started a little after 3 o'clock. And just from what I could tell, teachers are doing, they're attacking this in a very positive spirit. I will say this though, and this is where we need your prayers. This has been a very stressful time for them. They're going to hit a wall at some point. My communication to them this morning was, please take care of yourself and get the rest you so deserve. And what I would ask you parents is, if at all possible, try not to communicate to the teachers on the weekend, or at least give them one day off. I mean, unless it's an urgent matter that you have to have an answer right away, give our teachers a chance to rest and get away from school for a while. They need a sabbatical as well, a mini sabbatical each week. I mean, we have a Sabbath to rest, and our teachers need that too. So please respect that. I would ask that you, and I know you will, but just keep in mind, they've been burning the midnight oil literally to prepare for distance learning. And my concern is they're going to be exhausted by the end of the week. So let's give them a chance to rest. Unless it's something that just cannot wait, please respect their time with their families.
Great, thank you. We had a question about what's the easiest way to give to the annual fund, so I'm going to turn it over to Shannon Nelson real quick, and then we've got some facility questions for Bill Dyer.
Sure. So grateful for your generous hearts and really just for the community acknowledging that there may be needs out there. So in order to give to the annual fund, you can visit the website. That's an easy way to do so. If you have questions, please reach out to me directly, or you can reach out to development@legacyca.com. And that is our development email where we will absolutely answer your questions. In terms of the areas of need, Brad mentioned this earlier, tuition assistance. On average, we give about $600,000 in tuition assistance each year. We would like to double that this year in order to keep our community together and to make sure that anyone who's currently an LCA student or community member, we want to keep us together. So tuition assistance is certainly a way to give. And then our benevolence fund is for our faculty and staff specifically. So if faculty and staff members come up on a financial hardship or have a need that is unmet, the way that we provide for our faculty and staff is through our benevolence fund.
Great, thank you. All right, Mr. Dyer, a question for you. What is the LCA cleaning plan? Is the building still being regularly disinfected?
Thank you, Adam. Jorge and his team have consistently done a wonderful job of keeping our campus clean, and they do continue to do so. We don't know when we're going to be able to invite our students back to campus, but I want to assure our parents that we will conduct a thorough cleaning and sanitization of the facility before any students return.
Excellent. And another question, we had a family ask about whether or not the athletic facility could be opened, assuming social distancing rules are followed.
At this time, our entire campus is closed, and we are not encouraging the students to try to come and use the facilities at this point.
And what if our families are having challenges with technology or they need more resources?
Well, we do certainly understand the challenge that comes with transitioning to a distance learning mode, and of course all the technology issues that can arise from this. So we invite any family that is struggling with their technology to send an email to support@legacyca.com with a description of the challenge you're facing, and we will work with you to address your issues as best we can. We want to partner with you to ensure you have a productive and successful learning environment for your student.
Great, thank you. Mr. Mosley, we're going to bring you back up. Got some questions for you. Will spring athletes have an opportunity to complete their seasons? And what about seniors who are attempting athletic scholarships?
Right. Well, we are a member of the TAPS organization, Texas Association of Private and Parochial Schools, and we really refer to them and their plans. They have contingency plans for different types of opening dates. So as we approach the idea of opening up, we will then work with TAPS to see what the plans will be. I can tell you this: if our schools do not open, there will be no sports, and that's out of our control. And that is kind of the way that TAPS has approached it, because you have to have facilities to compete in. And so that creates some challenges, as you can imagine. But we're really waiting to hear on two things: when the schools open up and what TAP's plan is relative to that date. And with regard to seniors being recruited, recruiting takes place year round, and our coaches are still available to field calls from college recruiters. Colleges are still going to have to field their teams. With the invention of video and conferencing tools like this, those opportunities are still available to them through our coaching staff and through the college coaches who are always looking for athletes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mosley. Mr. McGee, I don't know if you can speak to this question, but I want to give you the opportunity to do so. We've had several questions about our support staff, kitchen staff, extended care, some of those people and their salaries. Are they being impacted by this?
Well, as far as the food staff, I can't tell you, because that's an independent contractor. Those employees are not employed by us. And to be honest, I don't know how Sage is handling that. Our custodial staff, again, is also, all of those employees are actually employees of Jorge. So some people don't know that. Jorge is actually not an employee of the school. He, although he's a beloved member of our community, he employs his staff. But to my knowledge, they're still working. I mean, our full custodial staff is showing up every day. There's only a handful of us on campus right now. And I know that the custodial staff, when they're able to, now some of them were actually sheltering in place, and they live in Dallas County, so they couldn't even leave their homes. But for the most part, most of this past week, all of Jorge's staff was present on our campus, cleaning our facilities. They're doing deep cleans. They're cleaning any area that has been occupied during the day. I know they cleaned my office just recently. They did the sanitation on my office. I could smell it the next morning when I reported to work. So as far as I know, those folks are being taken care of by their employer. I will say also, our Legacy Extended Care folks, they are our employees. We're still paying them. And with the new legislation that was just signed into law, we'll be able to get some help from the federal government in paying them. So it won't impact us financially. That we'll be able to get actually a payroll tax credit on the wages that we pay our extended care staff. So that was one of the good things about that recently passed law.
Great. Mr. Dyer, I'm going to let you jump in because I think you might be able to speak to Jorge's crew. 1 second. All right, go ahead, Bill.
Yes, as Mr. McGee said, Jorge and his staff are subcontractors of the school, but I have understood from Jorge, everyone is continuing to be paid and will continue to be paid as in the foreseeable future as far as we can. So,
great, thank you. Kevin, I'm going to toss this one to you, but principals, you may all be able to jump in on this. We've had a question about the ability to coordinate lunch times. Is that something you guys are willing to consider in the coming weeks, especially if this goes longer than what we've initially set up?
All right. Yeah, I saw that question. I think that's an interesting idea. We have coordinated, particularly with the middle school, our days and taking the Wednesdays off. It's a little bit more challenging to coordinate lunch times, particularly unless we're gonna end up pushing back maybe start times and end times not lining up. So it's a trade-off there. You can line up start and end times, but lunch times tend to vary because basically the length of our classes are different. But we can look at it. You have my word. We'll bring that up in our meeting on Tuesday. Is it possible? We certainly will take a look at it if it can help our families. But there's always trade-offs in that, and we'll have to measure, both sides of that equation in the process.
Great. And I would say I've lost track of the chat where that question was, but if you want to address that specifically to your principal to make sure we get you a direct response, that would be helpful. I'm going to turn it back over to Shannon Nelson. I think we've answered most of our questions. One second, Shannon.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Adam. Well, that concludes our time for Q&A today, and we appreciate all of the questions and the wonderful feedback. I noticed that a lot of the principals were going through and addressing questions one-off with individuals. We also will have an archive of this chat so that we can go take a look back and make sure that all questions were answered. So if we didn't get a chance to get to you today, we will email you offline and make sure that your questions are answered. As we mentioned earlier on, if you have additional questions outside of this webinar, please do submit them through the questions@legacyca.com email address. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Mr. McGee for some closing remarks, and then we'll move on to Brad Brenneman to provide us with a closing prayer.
Great. Well, thank you, Shannon. Let me just say, first of all, thank you, parents, for submitting those questions. I know there are a few that are still unanswered, and we will, someone will get back with you to try to help answer your question. As often in my role, I kind of have to step back and take the 30,000-foot view of the school. And, in seeing how all this is playing out, the thought occurred to me that we've got a terrific faculty and staff here. They are so dedicated to your children. And it was proven in these last 2 weeks when they just went above and beyond the call of duty to make this distance learning successful. So I'm so proud of their efforts, and parents, I know you are too. We've gotten so many nice compliments from you all, and keep those coming. We need to encourage one another. I know life is hard right now. It's hard for everybody. But with God's help and through His grace, we will endure this. We will persevere. A wise Presbyterian pastor once told me that, Bill, if you want to understand God's providence, you have to look backwards. And, it was a reminder that God has a plan for everything, that this pandemic was not a surprise to Him. And in fact, He is using this for His good purpose, His divine plan, and for His ultimate glory. We may or may not know what that is. Maybe 6 months from now, we'll have a better understanding. Maybe a year from now, maybe 10 years from now. But I will tell you this, God is intending this for our good, even if it's uncomfortable, if it's inconvenient, if it's a challenge. Sometimes God allows lesser evil to prevent a greater evil from occurring. And so, we have to hold on to our faith during these times. We have to see that God is still in control. He's still on His throne, even in times of despair and disappointment. And so that's my encouragement to you, Legacy Community. You're doing a great job. I am so pleased to be a part of the LCA community and to watch how we're coming together, supporting one another, helping wherever we can. And we'll look back one day and say, this was Legacy's finest hour. I really believe that. So with that, I'm going to ask Brad Brenneman to close us in prayer.
Thank you, Bill. I'm going to leave you with a verse that I've been anchoring to over the past couple of weeks, and it's some of Jesus's final words to his disciples before he enters that last week of his life and goes on to conquer death. And here are his words: "I have told you all this so that you may have peace in me, that you will be unshakable and assured. Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart, because I have overcome the world." Would you please bow with me for a moment in prayer? Thank you, Father, for your peace, your presence, your provision, for conquering death once and for all through your Son, Jesus Christ. As we near the Easter season here to celebrate, I pray that we will keep you and your purposes and your glory front and center in our lives. Thank you for your peace and presence, but also thank you for your active presence through your Holy Spirit. May your Spirit have free reign in each of our hearts and minds, and equip us to live in confidence and in comfort that you are indeed in charge and you have a great plan in store for us, even through these circumstances. Thank you for each student, faculty member, and family involved in the LCA community. May we step up in faith and in serving each other financially and otherwise to be a shining light in the city of Frisco. May we have tremendous influence and impact on our neighbors and those around us for how we carry ourselves, for the words we use, and for the actions we live out. And Father, finally, may we recognize and acknowledge that you are completely in control, and strive in everything we do to advance your reputation in this world. We love you, we praise you, and we commit to serve you each day at LCA. And it's in Christ's name we pray. Amen. Thank you all so much.
Excellent. Thanks, Brad, and thank you to everyone for joining. Real briefly, just wanted to flash this resource guide back up on the screen for you, so please do take note of these resources. We will also send these out via email so that you have them handy. They are all available on our new website, so please go visit legacyca.com/learningcontinues. There is a hub of new information for you, and we hope that you'll spend some time just perusing that new website to find all of those valuable resources. Again, any additional questions that you may have, please submit them to questions@legacyca.com. The recording of this presentation will be sent out, and any chat questions that were not answered today will be answered in a future communication. Thank you all so much, and God bless you.